Hey guys, welcome back to BMW Blog and welcome once again to South Carolina. I'm in Greenville today and I'm actually driving a brand new BMW. This is the BMW X7 Facelift. You might have seen my previous video with the BMW X7 M60i, but right now I'm gonna get behind the wheel of the new BMW X7 xDrive40i. So before I jump behind the wheel, let's take a quick look. So here's the new design of the BMW X7. You can follow our design review in the BMW X7 M60i video. I talked quite a bit about that car, but clearly this is the non-M performance version of the X7, so it looks a little bit different in the front. But of course, being a non-M performance car, it looks a little bit different. So still getting the split headlights, that's not going to change. But instead of the matte grille surrounds, it's all chrome right now, so you can see right there that's changed. Of course, the M Sport package, it's quite different on this car versus the M60i, so a lot less aggressive. You are also missing the blacked out air breathers right there, so this one has got different cutouts. And then of course, if you look at the bottom, you can see the air intakes being quite different as well. I believe this color is called sparkling copper metallic, quite unique color. You might have seen on other BMWs as well. Side view, once again, instead of the black panels and black accents on the M60i, you're getting chrome all around it, so you can see the hockey stick from the front all the way to the back. Speaking of the rear end, you can have the L-shaped taillights with a chrome bar integrated inside the housing of the light right there. You're getting different pipes than you would see on the M60i, so that's a big change right there. You can see also the chrome surrounds. And of course the xDrive40i badge. Let's take a quick look inside. So here we go. You can see the welcome sound, and it's got the new large curved display, 12.3 on one side, 14.9 on the other side. It makes for a very large curved display powered by iDrive 8. Two-tone leather. There are various options. I've driven actually the M60i with the all black merino leather, but there is also a vegan option as well. This one gets a wood trim compared to the carbon fiber in the M60i. Of course, the physical buttons now have been removed and all these functions are now inside the iDrive 8. Not the best solution, but that's something that we will have to adjust to. Gear shifter also being changed. You can see this little gear shifter right now, typical to the BMW iX and the 3 Series. Then of course you have the interaction bar right there, and we're gonna have a separate video on that as well. Not only it's part of the ambient package, but it also performs different functions, and they're actually quite interesting. All right, so with that being said, let's hop behind the wheel and see how this updated B58 6-cylinder engine actually drives in the BMW X7 Facelift. Join me. All right, so I'm behind the wheel of the BMW xDrive40i. This is the most popular model BMW is selling today. About 74% of the X7 models sold globally, they're actually 40i's. So let's start once again with the engine. An updated B58 6-cylinder engine. It received a technical upgrade. And what do I mean by that? It basically makes about 380 horsepower today and about 540 Newton meters of torque. And that's enough to take this car from 0 to 62 miles per hour in about 5.8 seconds. Definitely slower than the M60i, which goes from 0 to 62 in about 4.5, 4.6 seconds. But nonetheless, it is still fast enough for a car of this size. Of course, power is sent to all wheels via the 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. No major change there. BMW has been using that transmission for quite some time. They constantly refine it to make it better in every version that comes out. Of course, when it comes to the engine sound, it is different than what you get in the V8, so we're not gonna talk much about that. I don't think a lot of the BMW X7 customers really care about the engine noise and the exhaust, but if you do want that special exhaust note, you should always go for the M60i with a V8. It's very special and a very unique power plant. I'm not going to talk much about the interior design and all the other features because you might have seen in the M60i video. If you haven't, please make sure to check it out. I'm going to leave a link in the description, but I'm going to touch just a little bit on that. So typically, when it comes to a BMW facelift, they tend to be very conservative and you are not getting a lot of updates. But with the BMW X7, it feels like they're trying to change the character of the car completely and kind of give you like a brand new product. So in order to achieve that, what they've done is they kind of redesigned this entire dashboard here. You have this nice floating curved display with the xDrive8, so that's a major improvement over the previous generation. Of course, when it comes to xDrive7 versus xDrive8, you get people in both camps. Some love it, some hate it. I guess it takes time for xDrive8 to be familiar to you. It is a lot more complex, but at the same time, it does allow you for a lot more opportunities to customize your car. So with that being said, that's a large display. I'm not going to talk too much about that one. Center console, once again, you're getting that gear shifter. Not a big deal to me. I know some people would have preferred the old school one, but this is absolutely fine. Now, the one thing that does bother me, and I mentioned briefly before, it's really the lack of the physical buttons here. I understand the idea of simplifying the center console and the dashboard and make it simpler in a way, but at the same time, taking some of the switches out and moving that function inside the xDrive8 might not be the best move, especially for people that got used to those physical buttons for quite some time and the programmable buttons and so on and so forth. You are still getting the same BMW X7, luxurious comfort seats, beautiful leather, very soft, premium clearly. Of course, you have a lot of trim options, so that's always a really nice thing to see in a BMW luxury SUV. In a nutshell, the interior is extremely luxurious. It is a step up from the previous model, and I can say with confidence that this new X7 feels like a new car more than just a refresh. Of course, when it comes to tech, it is fully decked out. You're getting a lot of driver assistance systems. There is one called Driver Assistance Pro Plus, which basically does a lot of the level 2 and level 2 plus type of functions. You've seen similar implementation in the BMW iX, and you will see that in the BMW 7 Series as well. I've had a chance to test that on the highway, and it works quite well. Basically, you take your hands off the wheel and it does the acceleration, the braking for you, in stop and go traffic, so on and so forth. Extremely useful. Let's talk about the comfort. 2-axle air suspension standard in all the BMW X7, so that's great. You can also spec the car with a dynamic handling package that will improve the driving dynamics quite a bit. I've tested that in the M60i. You can also add the active roll bars, which will absolutely help, with body roll, especially when you go quite fast in corners. The suspension in the BMW X7, both M60i and 40i, has been tuned a little bit. So the adaptive suspension right now has a little bit of different character compared to the previous one. And what do I mean by that? The engineers told me that they've done some improvements to the rebound on the suspension basically. So I was told that I should feel as I travel over imperfect roads or potholes or speed bumps, I should get a different feeling from the suspension. And honestly, I did manage to experience that with both the 40i and the M60i. Of course, the updates are very subtle, but I guess you will notice that the more you drive the car. Rear steering, it's available, so basically that will not only help with maneuvering the car in tight city centers basically, or stop and go traffic, but it will also help you be more dynamic when you drive fast, as I mentioned earlier, on back roads. Now let's talk about the steering. So just like the M60i, in this car, what I've noticed that the steering is a little bit more direct than in the X5, for example. So I'm comparing now with the X5, but at the same time, it is a little bit lighter. So that's definitely by design, because from what I learned today also, a lot of customers prefer to have a very comfortable X7. So they're not looking maybe for the sportiness that an X5 would deliver, or even an X3, but they're looking more for comfort and a softer ride. So that translates into a different steering feedback as well. So despite being more direct, it is lighter, so that's definitely going to help any driver to navigate through cities especially, and like I said earlier, stop and go traffic, or even parking in tight spaces or maneuvering the car around the city. So not a bad thing. It's one of the few times when I say that a lighter steering in a BMW works, and this one works really well. So when it comes to the driving modes in the BMW X7, they are quite spread apart. So if you go into a comfort mode, you are definitely getting a very soft, very plush, very comfortable X7 ride. But if you go into Sport or Sport Plus, you are getting that, BMW sportiness that you would expect to see even an SUV of this size. Of course, this is a heavy SUV, but for some reason it does feel a little bit lighter than it actually is. And probably that's a combination of certain things, from the suspension, from the power output that's been increased, and a few other things. It makes you feel like you're driving a really sporty car. So when it comes to comfort in a BMW X7, I definitely enjoy the silent cabin. There is not much noise coming from the outside. The cabin is really well isolated from the outside. There is not a lot of road noise as well. Despite riding on 22-inch wheels, BMW offers a range from 19 to 23. And even though I'm in 22 high-performance tires right now, there is not a lot of noise coming from the road. So that's always a plus, especially in a car that I've mentioned before, that it's meant to be the 7 Series of the BMW SUV lineup. This particular one has a 7-seater instead of the 6-seater that I've had in the M60i, and that's because the second row right now, it's a full bench, 2 seats, and also a center seat as well that's usable. And then of course you have the 2 seats in the back in the third row. So 7 seats in here, 6 seats was in the M60i. You have an options in between the two. I'm 6 feet 2 inches tall, so in meters about 1.9 meters tall. As you can see in that M60i video, I sat in the second row with the driver's seat pushed all the way back to my driving position basically, and then I went into the second row to make sure that I can still fit, and I was able to fit. I had about, I would say about 5-6 inches of knee room and definitely plenty of headroom. So that's a great thing in the second row. Now when you go to the third row, things change a little bit, right? So I am tall, so I'm not your probably average person when it comes to height, but at the same time I can feel that I can ride in that seat for shorter distances, maybe around town. But if it comes to taking a road trip, I definitely don't want to be stuck in that seat. It is definitely a seat made for a little bit shorter people, and of course it's definitely made for kids. So if you travel with a large family, I would definitely encourage you to have the kids in the third row. It will absolutely make a lot more sense. Once again, space with all the seats up, basically you're getting about 12.8 cubic feet of space. Naturally, if you lower the third row, you are going to get additional cargo space. This is the BMW X7 xDrive40i. It is available right now in the US. There are only 2 options here, the 40i and the M60i. Tons of new color options. This is a sparkling copper, but I drove a frozen Marina Bay blue today, BMW individual color, but I've also seen a British racing BMW X7 M60i, which was fantastic. So there is a little bit of everything for everyone, basically, when it comes to color, leather options, trims, so on and so forth. So you won't feel at any time that you are missing out on any color choices or options. Now, please let me know in the comments below, would you prefer an X740i or will you take the M60i with the M engine? If money no object, of course. And as always, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, and I'll make sure to have a lot more videos coming up in the near future. We'll see you soon.